What happens when the most powerful king of Europe defies the authority of the Pope? In the early 14th century, King Philip IV of France and Pope Boniface VIII engaged in one of the most dramatic power struggles in history, one that would shake the very foundations of medieval Europe. But what led to this intense conflict, and how did it ultimately change the balance of power between church and state? At the turn of the 14th century, the Catholic Church held immense influence over European rulers. Popes often clashed with monarchs, but none as fiercely as Boniface VIII and Philip IV. Philip, a strong-willed king, was determined to assert his authority over France without interference from the Pope. His kingdom was engaged in costly wars, and he needed money. Fast. In 1296, he imposed heavy taxes on the French clergy to fund his campaigns, but Pope Boniface VIII was not one to back down. He issued the papal bull, Claricis Laicos, forbidding kings from taxing the clergy without papal consent. To Philip, this was a direct challenge to his sovereignty. Instead of complying, he tightened his grip on the French church and even cut off financial support to Rome. This was just the beginning of an all-out war between church and state. Tensions escalated as both men refused to yield. In 1302, Boniface issued Unam Sanctam, a bold declaration asserting that spiritual authority was superior to secular power. He claimed that all rulers, including kings, were subject to the Pope's authority. Philip, enraged, responded with a shocking move. He accused Boniface of corruption, heresy, and even sorcery. But words were not enough. He took action. In 1303, Philip's advisor, Guillaume de Nogaret, led a military force to Italy. Their target? The Pope himself. What followed was the infamous Anagni Incident. Soldiers stormed Boniface's residence, taking him prisoner and physically assaulting him. The once mighty Pope, humiliated and weakened, was later released, but died shortly after. Philip had done the unthinkable. He had defied and overpowered the papacy itself. The death of Boniface VIII was a turning point. Never again would a pope wield the same unchecked power over European monarchs. Philip IV continued his dominance, even ensuring the next pope, Clement V, was under his control. This led to the Avignon Papacy, where the papal seat moved from Rome to France, marking nearly 70 years of French influence over the church. It was a clear sign that political power was shifting. Kings were no longer at the mercy of the pope. This struggle foreshadowed even greater challenges to papal authority, leading centuries later to the Protestant Reformation. The showdown between Philip IV and Boniface VIII wasn't just about money or politics, it was about the very nature of power. The idea that kings could rule independently of the Pope reshaped Europe. It marked the decline of the medieval church's dominance and the rise of the modern nation-state. Today, their conflict is a reminder of how political and religious power have always been deeply intertwined. The battle between King Philip and Pope Boniface VIII changed the course of history. But this was just one of many power struggles that shaped medieval Europe. If you found this fascinating, wait until you hear about the dramatic downfall of the Knights Templar, a secret order destroyed under Philip IV's rule.